Hey guys, good morning. Uh, Happy New Year to everybody. Just wanted to start off 2024 with a little bit of consistency. I'm traveling this week, but I said that that's not going to really be an excuse to not do these weekly events. I've been getting some great feedback. Interestingly enough, a bunch of people inside my internet universe have been telling me that they've been watching these lives, even though they have nothing to do with Amazon or e-commerce. I heard it from somebody in financial services. I heard it from somebody in the music business. And it sort of tickles me to think that people like the sound of my voice. I personally hate the sound of my voice. So I don't know. It's something I guess I have to live with. It's my own personal insanity. Anywho, it's the first week of 2024. Like I said, I'm traveling. I am currently in a lounge connecting in Charlotte for a flight to Alabama. And this leads sort of to the first thing I wanted to discuss. I know a lot of people travel. I know a lot of people use these American Express lounges, and I'm willing to bet that almost everyone that travels and uses these lounges knows the Wi Fi password by heart. Hasn't changed in decades. Well, apparently that has changed. This morning, when I tried to log in, my password was wrong. I thought my caps lock was on. Nope. I had to run around like a cuckoo to find out that the password has been changed for the first time in ever. And according to the person at the front desk, everybody has been in an uproar about this. And on top of it, American Express is considering changing it every quarter. I don't know what the point of this is. I don't think that anybody is sneaking into a Centurion lounge simply so they could hop off the Wi Fi. Doesn't make sense to me. I don't get it. Uh, Definitely not one of the best things of 2024. Um, that said, we roll with it. One of the themes of this show and one of my themes in business is that no matter what happens, it just is. You run with it, you roll with it. And now all I have to do is know that each time I go to a lounge, try to remember to look for what the new password is going to be. Again, annoying, certainly not ever going to be the worst part of my day. If it is, that's a fantastic day indeed. All right, moving on to business. Like I said, today is January 4th, and I wanted to talk about a specific event that's happening next week, which is called ASGTG. Many of you will know about ASGTG. Many of you I'll probably see there next week. But for those of you that don't know, business networking and business events are absolutely a vital part of business growth. Being around people in your niche, being around people in your business, being around people who are a bit ahead of you that you can learn off of, being around people who have seen it all and done it all is super important. And there's a whole event schedule that goes on all year. But one of the best events, and really the one that starts off the year, is the ASGTG event, which is thrown by Ed Rosenberg. I've been attending for probably 6 years plus. I forget the exact amount of time, but I've been going since probably the second year that the event has run. And at this point, I consider Ed a friend. I I don't know how he even remembers who I am with the hundreds and hundreds of people that take up his time all day, but he is always warm and kind and generous to me. And somehow I make it into all of his picks promoting the event. So I said, let me return the favor and let me tell the world a little bit about what I think of ASGTG. So for those of you that don't know, Ed is involved in the e-commerce and Amazon world. He offers services for sellers. The services probably aren't even that important or relevant. What is relevant is he has built a group called ASGTG. Um, the T stands for Telegram. I don't know what the other, I guess the A stands for Amazon. And the other letters mean something Telegram group, something, something. Now, for those of you who aren't aware, there's a messaging service called Telegram, and Ed has built out a network of groups on Telegram that basically cover every single aspect of selling on Amazon and even off Amazon in very, very high detail. So, as opposed to a group about Amazon where questions can be random, There is a group for private label sellers. There's a group for wholesalers. There's a group for logistics. There's a group for advanced sellers. There's a group for basic questions. There's a group for PPC. Like, there are dozens or more of groups specifically tailored to each part of the selling experience on Amazon. And they're really intended that no matter what you need in order to help your business grow, you will find it in that network. Now, in addition to that, he has a Facebook group, only one Facebook group, not dozens, but within that Facebook group, there's something like 60 or 70,000 sellers. It's basically the place to be if you have anything to do with Amazon. And again, the conversations are varied. The conversations center around every part of selling, and there is actually a focus on the challenges of suspensions and restrictions and things like that. So if you are having a hard time with something, that's a good place to get help. It's a good place to maybe share your experiences for someone else having an issue with a suspension or a restriction or something. It's a handy, tight, focused place on the internet, which is useful. Now, in addition to his Telegram group, in addition to his Facebook group, once a year, Ed runs the ASGTG event. It's held in Brooklyn, New York. It is a magnet for the strongest sellers on Amazon. At first, he focused on a small group of Brooklyn, New York sellers. He felt that they were underserved. He set it up for them. Those sellers were all high-powered. Apparently, I don't know if this is still true, but several years ago, it turned out that something like 8% of all Amazon third-party sales came from one zip code in Brooklyn. That's astronomical for 1 square mile of America. That group was very highly represented at the ASGTG event. So if you happen to be in the room, you are around some of the biggest, strongest, most focused sellers on all of Amazon. For the first few years, it was focused on that. And as word got around, more and more people started coming from outside that tight network. And now, this year, there are going to be, according to Ed, over 1,000 attendees. 1,000 attendees immediately puts it into the top category of Amazon events. And again, this isn't held in Las Vegas where people are coming for all of the things that happen in Las Vegas. It isn't happening in Miami where you've got the weather. New York, of course, is a great town to be in. Of course, New York is the best, but it is January in New York. So people who are coming are really coming to be there for this event. I highly recommend attending. Sorry for all the ums. Like I said, I'm traveling. I'm in between flights. It's a little bit early, but consistency is consistency. Now, to talk a little bit more about the event, I spoke to Ed before doing this live, and I said, listen, Ed, I'm intending to talk about ASGTG. Is there anything that you feel people should know besides whatever my impressions are? And he gave me a list. So I'm going to sort of go through it. The first thing is, like we said, the attendees, the top-notch attendees. The speakers are going to be strong speakers. And he asked me to mention it, but the truth is, even though I didn't say it up until now, I strongly agree. Ed generally has some of the best speakers on the Amazon circuit. They always bring their A game. He demands it. This year, 2 of the speakers are ex-Amazon employees, and one of the speakers is an ex-TikTok employee. So that's something you don't hear too often. When you listen to people like this speak, it's not like you're going to get a special key which unlocks the insides of these platforms, but you do get insights into how these platforms work. You get insights into how the people at the company think. And as you try to create content and live and work and try to make business on Amazon, on TikTok, and other places, having people that used to be in those places is going to be super helpful, super relevant for where you want to go there. He mentioned to me that there are going to be many new sponsors. And when he first told me that, I thought, what is many, who goes for the sponsors? And as I thought about it a little bit, I actually realized something. What I just said is sort of important. If you go through the Amazon circuit, so to speak, of events, you sort of at some point tune out the sponsors a little bit because they are all the same. there is a certain overlap of sponsors, and they are important companies. I do business with a bunch of them. Absolutely. I have business dealings with them. I have good relationships with many of them. I know the executives at many of these companies. But if you see the same company 7 times a year, by the 7th time, there's sort of a limit to the new value you're going to get out of their booth. So when Ed is telling me that there are going to be many new sponsors, that actually is an indicator that there's going to be a lot of life in the exhibition hall. There are going to be people offering new services. There are going to be people offering things with new perspectives as opposed to something which might have gotten stale. So it's going to be worth attending, spending time in that exhibition hall and seeing all of the new people who you might not know already. I personally tend to be cautious when connecting my account to a new service. But at the same time, I absolutely want to know everything that's in the marketplace. I like to keep my eye on it. There are cases where I will try things. It's interesting. There is a software which I started trying out in mid-December, which I usually don't do, but the person running it is a super genius. And they said, hey, give me any account. I said, I'm going to give you my worst account. He goes, give me your worst account. And I said, all right. I connected my worst account to it. In like 17 days, there's a market improvement in performance. So still testing. Maybe in 90 days, we might talk about it in depth. But the larger point is always have your eyes open, and new attendees absolutely means opportunity, absolutely means you should keep your eyes open. So having covered the new sponsors, having covered the number of attendees, having covered the quality of speakers, this sort of leaves us with the below the radar / above the radar thing which ASGTG has made its reputation, which is the food. It almost sounds dumb, but it will only sound dumb if you haven't attended. The food at ASGTG is the best food of any event, bar none. It is, I mean, the only way to describe it is you are going to an entire day-long wedding. Breakfast is gourmet. Lunch is gourmet. When dinner comes out, you will regret having had breakfast and lunch because the things that they put out for dinner are spectacular. The quality of the food, the variety of the food, all of it. It is unbelievable. It is something which Ed takes pride in, and he makes it a point of reputation, and it's known. When I go to an event I haven't been to before, one of the things I evaluate is how's the food. Sometimes there's no food. Sometimes the food's all right. Sometimes the food is good. And the people running the event will tell me the food's good, right? And I will agree. If the food's good, the food's good. But I've never seen anything close to ASGTG. And if Ed asked me to mention it this year, he's already planning it really, really well. So it's absolutely, in New York City, it's worth more than the price of the ticket if you go to a fancy dinner. So if you're tenuously in the Amazon or e-commerce space, it's almost worth it to come just for the food. Although it's not worth it to come just for the food. It sort of is and isn't. But you should know the food is a thing. Now, of course, as amazing as it is, Ed always wants the event to grow. More attendees means more growth in the community. And what he asked me to do is 2 things. The first thing is, if you haven't booked your ticket yet, you still have a week. Get your plans together. If you're in the New York City area, pencil out that day, which is the 10th. I believe it's Wednesday. I'll get you the link afterwards in my show notes or wherever comments I can put into my different lives in different spots. But make it your business to be there that day. Now, to encourage that, if you haven't happened to book yet, Ed is he gave me a coupon code for 20% off. I'll put that code inside the notes. I'll put a link there. You'll be able to get that percentage off and be able to, to do well with the event. But we actually discussed something interesting. most of the people who will attend will already be inside the Amazon world. That's why you'd come to this event. And most likely, a large part of the attendees have been to ASGTG already. In the interest of expanding the visibility of the event, we discussed something interesting. If you have never been to an ASGTG before, Ed will have one. I can probably get him to give 2 or 3 tickets for free as a first-time attendee. If you've been here to the event already, don't bother. You know the value. You shouldn't be getting a freebie. But if you haven't been and you want to experience what this event is all about, send me a message. I'll pass it on. And Ed would love to see you. Ed would love to shake your hand and welcome you to the world of ASGTG. And it'll definitely be a day which is worth the time you invest. So, you know, he really takes a lot of pride in the event, and he wants to make it something powerful for sellers. All right, so that's my quick talk while I'm in between flights. I'll post a bunch of links. I'll see you next week for everybody that will and should be there. I'll leave this off with one thing, which is, again, completely unrelated. We've got sort of 3 things today. We've got those Amex logins, we've got ASGTG, and one thing which I'm not sure what to think about yet, but I'm starting to think about it, is how to log into apps. Again, totally unrelated to anything. But within the past few weeks, I've noticed that at least a couple of my apps don't use passwords. They simply ask me to put in my email address, and as soon as I try to log in, they say, okay, we sent a code to your cell phone or email address. Let us know what the code is. And that's it. No passwords involved. There's a part of me which thinks that this is a good way for protection. Of course, you need to keep that resource super secure. Like, you need to have your phone by you, and of course, there's a universe of spoofing phone numbers and stuff. But putting that aside, if you can keep your base resource safe, this could be a good way to have to not have to keep track of a trillion passwords. Again, not exactly sure yet, but it's a thing I'll give a little bit of thought to over this year. Anywho, I'll post some links to ASGTG. Any questions, you know how to find me, and see you next week.